Right, so these emitters originally tested exactly the same, but now when the batteries hooked together, they test differently. I don't have anything charging. It's just the charge controllers have a load on it. But I've actually observed the complete opposite on my regular meter. So I'm probably going to need to calibrate one of these meters. It's fluctuating a little high. I'm wondering. So this meter here, let me get my hand through here. We had 13.76 on this battery. Okay. We got 13.77 on that battery. That display is reading higher than that display. In reality, this battery is 0.01 higher. So I'm going to show you the back of this. And I really don't want to switch these around, so I mean I could just put a different one in there. So you need a precision screwdriver. Not exactly sure right now which one I'm going to need. You probably barely even have to touch it. Yeah, it doesn't seem to fit. I can't see very well. That one actually seems a little too small. And that one's a little too large. I click on freaking hell. If you're not careful with these, they're pretty easy to break. Interesting. So yeah, it wants the size that I don't have. Let's see if I can find the other size. So we get it where it's teetering between the 6 and the 7. And then we need to bring it to where it's between the 7 and the 8. And then bring it back. I'm going clockwise. And I don't have a serious way to calibrate this meter because you would turn it until it changes one direction or the other, like basically on both of them, and then bring it back. But as long as they both agree with each other and the batteries both agree, then I don't want to mess with it too much. If I start to see that it's flickering between the 6 and the 7, or the 7 and the 8, and the other one is not, I can check the voltage of the battery. We're 13.76. And we're now at 13.75 on this battery. So the battery's voltages are kind of settling around. This one was a little bit higher for a minute. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn on my solar. We should see a little bit of change once the MPPT connects. So this was that meter that Amazon sent me 2 times in a row used. I figured I should put it to some usage. Okay, I just heard the MPPT click on the unit. Let's see what we're looking at here. I see that it's charging, but these batteries are supposed to be pretty much full. I hate this really thick stranded copper wire that the solar place had recommended I buy. So if you go to Santan Solar, they're going to sell you this really thick house wire. This is the kind of stuff that you would use for AC, not DC. So it's you know, not meant to be moved around or anything like that. You know, it's a low strand count with thick conductors. Okay, we're at 13.8 on this battery and 13.7 on that. So now it's an opportunity to check this. Let's see what we get. 13.84. They're both 13.84. Okay. So at 13.84, this one should be reading 13.8, unless it needs to hit the threshold of 13.85. $13.83. $8.4. That one's actually higher again. So what I want to do is I'm going to remove this meter and I'm going to go back to my fluke meter and use that. I don't know that it's the most accurate meter that I have, but I notice that most of my meters agree with it. Okay. So we've got 13.84 on that one. And 13.85 on that one. So I would like to see this other one read at least 13.8 because we're about halfway there already. Let me go ahead and clip on some more stuff. Let these batteries charge a little bit more. 13.9, 13.9. This one just spiked up to 17 volts for a second. There's a problem with these EP-evers that sometimes I go to 29 volts and higher, and I'll get like an overvoltage warning all the time. Okay, so let's check our voltage. 13.85. Okay. 13.86. So I definitely want this one to be reading 13.8. We're over that half mark. So I'm going to adjust it. I just barely touched it, and it's in the teetering stage because it went back down. Okay. What I want to do is I just want to barely change it because I know that it's barely half, or a little bit of half. Okay. See, you move it just a little bit and it jumps high. So these will have to be fiddled with a few times to get them accurate, because if you move it too far, it's going to change to 13.8 now, but once it gets higher in the voltage, like let's say 13.87 or something, they'll start reading too high. It'll go 13.9 before it should. We wanted to change it about, like, halfway, since we can't see that other digit. But this actually went down. We're at 13.8 exactly on this battery, and then let's see what we're on this one. Both of these batteries are at 13.8 perfectly, and actually this one went down. So what we might actually be doing is putting current into the batteries, and the voltage is being steady. I don't know. Both 7.9. Okay, so they're still reading 13.8, and that's probably okay. We have one other unit that's not hooked up right now. Now notice I moved the camera and the display went wonky. It has like a PWM that supplies power to the digital display. So PWM, pulse width modulation, and you'll see that funky thing, because the camera is able to pick it up, but our eye isn't able to. So we had 13.7 on one and 13.8 on another, which means we probably, like I said, we're gonna have to adjust this several times. But let's just check our voltage again. We're 13.79, but it went back up to 13.8. So I'm happy that that one is pretty close. If it wants to flick on and off at 13.79, that means it's really close to where we'll be able to tell when it's fully charged at 13.8 volts. Now, I don't remember what the full state of charge on these is. I think it's actually something different, like 14.2. But this company has a manual. It differs from other people's manuals, but their charging limit voltage that they've set is 14.6, and they say the recommended charging voltage is 14.2 to 14.6. I believe 14.6 is kind of high. It says selective 14.6 LiPo 4 mode, or select user mode to enter the values according to the below parameters. So it says it wants a charging limit of 14.6, over voltage disconnect at 15, equalizing charge of 14, float charge of 13.8. So yeah, 13.8 should probably be the float charge. So we would be like 27.6 on this thing. I don't know what the EPFers are set to, but the under voltage warning is 11.6, which I think is way too low. Low voltage reconnect 12.4. I don't like to see them be anything lower than 12.8. I just don't see. I don't need to cycle the battery that hard. Discharge limit voltage 10.4, over discharge disconnect 10.4. That's pretty low. So this is why, like a lot of Chinese places, you can't trust them. And also, we don't know what this BMS inside these batteries are set to, so that's another problem too. So when you start mixing different brands of batteries, you could end up with a lot of problems because the BMSs aren't identical. Hell, you could have two batteries and the BMSs might not even be identical. But if we were to look at that manual there, and then we go over and look at what it says in the Chin's manual for the Chin's batteries, I guarantee you it's not the same. I like the Chin's batteries better. They have a nicer manual. They're packaged better. There's no bulging on the front of the batteries. These batteries both have bulging, and one of them I can move it and hear the cells move a little bit. So we're at 13.9 on this guy here, but back to 13.8. This one's not changing. So we want to see if we have some pivoting going on here. This is such a pain with the tripod being in my way. 13.83 is now reading 13.9. 13.83. This one's reading too high. So basically I need to nudge it again. Just keep an eye on this. 13.84. Okay. 13.83. We don't want that one reading 13.9 because it's actually lower. Okay, it keeps wanting to go back and forth. And at that particular voltage would be fine if the thing was close. But 13.8.4 is not close. So with these things here, without having a higher precision display, you know, it's going to be kind of rudimentary. You know, you're only going to get so much. But I wanted to show you guys in the Chin's manual here where they rate for their. They give some specs for their battery, which I have 2 of them. They say the charge voltage could be 14.2 to 14.6. The nominal voltage should be 12.8 for the battery. I don't remember what the other company said, but it was somewhere around that. So the 13.8 is about the float charge. So if these batteries are fully charged, they're not pulling any current, they should all be the same, nice, even, balanced. And so I want to get these pretty close before I put any kind of load on anything. Because right now is going to be the easiest time to really, you know, get everything matched up perfectly. So let me see here what I'm reading on my thing here. 27.7 on one. Let me go here and see what this guy says. This is 1 amp into the battery right now. I just heard something click. I don't know if that was. We're 27.8 on this, 28.1 on one. We see it went up to 14.1. It spiked to 19 volts. So these EP-evers are kind of. I hear the clicking, and I'm not sure why it's clicking, because there isn't anything even on. And this is why I went to a newer inverter, because I was experiencing weird problems. But I still, you know, want to use this equipment unless I were to get another inverter, you know, and that's a lot more money. So, I mean, you know, one of these green inverters was about 700, and the other inverter was about 500. And, you know, between the two of those, you know, you could have got something better, but it's about, you know, 5.4 kilowatts. You're probably going to, you know, pull 2 out of each one. That's basically safe. But the other stuff in the information in this thing, what they were talking about was the 12-volt battery charging limit 14.2, over voltage disconnect 14.6, reconnect voltage 13.8, float 13.8. We really want them to sit at 13.8. So, and they do seem to be sitting at 13.8. The displays, I've seen them jump a few times to like 19 volts, which I'm not sure how that would happen, other than this is a 24 volt system and there could be some kind of imbalance or something happening in one of the BMSs. That's why when you have multiple batteries in series or parallel with their own BMS, you start to end up having more issues when you have like a 48 volt battery, and we just went to 13.7. Whereas if you had a 48 volt battery with one BMS to do everything for all the cells, then it might be a little more stable. $13.81. 13.81. So it's almost as if that display just is not wanting to play nice. So 13.81, 13.8. So this one here, we don't know when it's going to change, but I would guess it would have to go up just a hair. Well, it's actually a 13.79, so that might be okay. I just kind of want them to be in the halfway mark, you know. So okay, so now the other one changed to 13.7. So let's see what the voltage is on both of them. So we had 13.79 on both, I think. I mean, last time I checked this one a few seconds ago. And 13.78, 7.7. 13.79. So these are pretty close. So I would say that's good enough.